Everybody. Morning. So I'm just going to do some introductions to start with. But first of all, welcome to South Africa. We started off in 2014, 2015, trying to get across this concept of the control tower to the public health space, to the countries that we were working in. And we went through a series of workshops, and the last one in Annecy, which is why I think there's a French flag there, we basically launched the concept. We had several countries go ahead and write white papers. So I know several of the countries in the House, but if you are part of a team that wrote a VAN white paper after the Annecy, and I know Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, Ethiopia, South Africa, can you put your hands up? So these were our VAN pioneers. And so either if you attended, and I think India as well, let's have India. I know we had some work with India as well. So we pioneered the idea. We had the presentations that Ed and his team put together. We then tried to, we developed a blueprint. We looked to then finesse it and move it forward. And then, as we've seen on this journey, each geography, each country basically took its own unique approach. And that was fine because, of course, each country has different contexts, different settings, different constraints. And one of the reasons, again, we wanted to bring ourselves back together was so that we could learn from each other. South Africa is doing some fantastic things. Nigeria is doing some great things. I mean, every team that have started this journey have got some successes and some lessons that they have learned and they will be sharing with us. And here we've got to today. And we've used the term jumpstart because I don't know if you can spot this, the VAN jumpstart. We're trying to kind of keep the van moving. And in some cases, some of us have got as far as we can get, and some of us have taken a slightly different path. And so the idea being that we want to try and get the whole control tower van process moving again and inject some momentum and inject some learnings. And so we're here today basically to learn from the success stories. And there are some fantastic success stories that you'll hear, some case studies, there'll be lots of opportunities for sharing. But it's not as easy. I mean, none of us have had an easy journey. And so we need to understand what the current situation is, what some of the challenges. The Nigeria team that I've been working with, has made some fantastic progress, but they still face some challenges. And so looking for them to share not just the successes, but the challenges as well. And then start to brainstorm with some of the partners in the room. So we've got you grouped by countries, and then try and get some ideation around solutions, learning from different countries and learning from some of the technical experts that we have in the room. And the objective will certainly be to try and get us on a path moving forward where all of the teams have either a clear vision, clear sense of where they want to achieve, and a clear roadmap as to how they're going to get there. So one thing I want to now do is pivot to some logistics about the meeting. So all of you should have your workbook. This is the most important thing that you'll need to make this a productive meeting. So without further ado, please welcome Deborah from the Gates Foundation.
Hi, my name is Deborah Dole, and I do supply chain at the foundation. This first part, what we're going to do is open your action workbook to page 8, and you'll find a space there to make your own goals for this week. Undoubtedly, with how many people we have, I hear last count is 129 of us in the room right now. All of us have different goals of what we're hoping to get out of this week, different people that we're wanting to meet, different concepts we're wanting to learn. So please take 60 to 90 seconds to write down your own goals for the week. I find that as we have our eyes set out for what we're looking for, that we tend to find it. So please take the time to do that now. Keep track of those. We'll check in on those at the end of the day and the beginning of the day so you can keep your goals in mind. I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about VANs, and then we'll go into our open plenary panel, which is really exciting. So visibility and analytics networks, VANs. The commercial world calls these control towers. In its most basic form, a control tower or a van is an information hub that shows visibility on inventory, information, and financials throughout a supply chain. It links data from multiple sources into one area to provide a picture of what's happening in the supply chain. Control towers emerged in the 1990s as it became more and more popular for supply chains to use outsourced logistics providers. So companies needed a way to stay connected to and have visibility to their inventory. These logistics vans developed into supply chain vans to provide a complete picture and are used today to assist supply chain managers to make real-time decisions based on data. In our community, we use these vans to make sure our beneficiaries are getting the products and services they need when they need them. And we're able to make the best use of the constrained resources that we have. This week, you'll hear from a number of teams who are on their van journey to understand how they do it and what they're using the data for. We asked what words you would use to describe a van. Data is prominently displayed, which is to be expected. You also see performance, improve, people, transparency, decision-making, and supply chain. We're here to supply product to meet beneficiary demand. In order to do that well, we need to see that demand. Visibility into the supply chain, into the service delivery points, guide our supply decisions. The supply chain plays a vital role in the health system. Certainly, product is required for a beneficiary to be served. Supply chain can also help us get smarter about our health system. The van allows us to not only have visibility, also analytics, to learn more about our communities and how they access the health system. The van allows us to learn. My first class I ever took on supply chain was on operations management. The first day of that first class, our professor gave us a little note card and asked us what we expected to learn in the class. On my note card, I wrote, "What is operations management?" My first day working in supply chain, I was shuffled around the office asking very basic questions, like what is risk management? And what do you mean by process control? My continuous learning journey had clearly begun. Every time I start a new project, there are so many things to learn about people, organizations, products, supply chain constraints, and nuances. As supply chain professionals, we are on a continuous journey of learning and improvement. So this week we gather to learn, share, exchange ideas, celebrate success, acknowledge challenges, and build solutions to move forward together as a community. A van helps us to make better decisions. Visibility and analytics network. Without visibility, we don't know what's being consumed. We don't know if there's been a stock out or for how long. Without analytics, we don't know what that stock out would have done if it was in stock. We don't know when we need to order more inventory, ship more inventory, or shift our overall approach. Without the network, we don't know the impact of one part of the supply chain on another, or how the whole supply chain system impacts our beneficiary, or the other way around, how the beneficiary impacts our supply chains. Supply chains, as we know, are complex networks of people, process, policy, and supportive technologies. A van brings it all together and allows us to make the best possible decisions to improve the performance of the supply chains we manage and support. During the last series of van workshops 2 years ago, our colleagues at Accenture helped us define a van. The decisions made possible by the van point towards improving supply chain performance. Here, it's defined as availability of product on the shelf. Depending on your supply chain and which part of the supply chain we look at, the shelf could be a stock room, a cold store, a fridge, part of a campaign, an informal drug seller, or carried by a community health worker. This week, you'll have the chance to dialogue with us and each other about supply chain performance. We'll hear about performance management from Procter & Gamble, who lead the global commercial supply chain community in their approach to performance management. You'll hear from my colleague, Mike Williams, who has a strong background in lean systems, about the concept of supply chain maturity. What does it take as an input to a supply chain around people, teams, process excellence, and visibility that creates a high-performing supply chain? And how do you get there? We have an optional and highly recommended session where you can complete a maturity assessment from 3 to 4:30 this afternoon with Mike and me. You'll hear from Kaduna State, Nigeria, about strong, empowered teams and the difference it's making in their supply chain operations. The team from Mozambique will share with us how they found a way to use a van despite having resource constraints. The teams from the Africa Resource Centers will share with you the support network that is quickly growing to connect you to the resources you need. And we'll spend time exploring each level of the van. How do we make better decisions? Managing through data is certainly the goal. We want to make the best possible decision based on the best possible data. Much of today, you'll see the South African National Department of Health featured as they share their van journey. The reason we're here in South Africa is to learn from the NDOH. You'll have the chance to hear from the NDOH teams about the role of leadership, master data, and performance management, and more. We'll even have a very special session from 4:30 to 6 this evening, exclusively for government teams to hear from NDOH and ask any questions you have without donors and partners in the room. How do we manage through data? It helps when the data is visualized and steers us in the right direction. This week, you'll hear from the National Public Healthcare Development Agency of Nigeria and how they have used a van dashboard to improve their supply chain performance. What's the role of a platform in van? You'll have the chance to interact with different partners in tonight's poster session about this topic. We have colleagues from SAP and E2Open and other technical experts, so you can ask any questions you have. A platform allows freedom among partners to continue to use the right system or data collection approach that works for them, and pulls all these different sources of data into a single home to then feed that dashboard. Platforms can also help us align to our particular data standard, such as GS1, and in doing so, better communicate across our supply chains and across the community. At the base of the pyramid, we have one of the biggest challenges, data collection. Where does this data come from? This week, you'll hear a solution seminar about supply chain data as the fuel for your van. In it, you'll discuss data collection challenges and approach. You'll hear from the team in India about how they gather last mile data. You'll have the opportunity to take a breakfast series that David mentioned tomorrow and Thursday and walk away with your very own Excel-based visibility tool. I think data collection, getting routine, quality, complete data is really hard. This week, we'll have the time to discuss challenges, hear success stories, and brainstorm solutions together. There's lots of interesting things happening this week. As you know, the NDOH will show us what has worked and what hasn't during their journey. We'll hear even more success stories from more geographies and examples of vans. So you have some ideas on moving forward. There are also solution seminars and poster sessions. You'll have the chance to see almost 20 posters at dinner tonight, ranging from what's a platform and why do I need one, decision-making using last mile data, continuous improvement, and how the commercial world manages and uses data. With these inputs, you'll have the chance to acknowledge the constraints and challenges in your own van journey and build a plan to move forward. So looking at the agenda for today, we soon have a panel to introduce our success stories. Then we'll go straight into learning, first from P&G and then from NDOH. We have an incredible wealth of experiences, perspectives, and solutions here this week in the same place, totally accessible and free. The poster sessions will run throughout the dinner so you can explore all of the topics that are interesting to you. One last reminder on the breakfast series tomorrow and Thursday morning. They're outlined in the action workbook, and the team has prepared an Excel tool that will gift to those who attend, and it will give you everything you need to have a home for your inventory data and visualize it so you can make better decisions. We are so excited for this week. Teams from so many countries and organizations have put in thought and planning to present their learnings to you. So you can take those learnings, tailor it to your supply chain, and improve the maturity and the performance of the supply chains you manage or support. You'll see the schedule is full, and we hope fun and interesting and engaging. We look forward to your perspectives, your feedback, your challenges, and your ideas that you will undoubtedly share with each other during the course of this week as you engage in discussions on getting data about near real-time beneficiary demand into a platform analyzed and visualized and usable for decision-making and performance management as we express that all lives have equal value across our beneficiaries, our countries, and our global communities.